You know how to make no-fail puff paint? Do you? No-fail puff paint. Welcome to Live with Ms. Steph. Today on this episode, today is April 28th, 2025, and I am Stephanie E. Farmer, founder and executive director of Triple F Empowerment, Inc., and we're going to make some no-fail puff paint with some simple materials. Before we do that, let's get into our weekly Science Club news. As I've already stated, I'm Ms. Steph, and today is April 28th, 2025. It's a Monday. By the way, for those of you watching this on the replay, thank you ever so much. So this coming weekend, on Saturday, May 3rd, we shall have our Saturday Science Club. May is the last month in our school year cycle, in the October to May cycle for Saturday Science Club. And so make sure that you are, hello, thank you for watching Live with Ms. Steph. Make sure that you are joining us this month, because on May 3rd, 10th, and 17th, we have Saturday Science Club in some form. On the 3rd and the 10th, we expect to be at Wadley from 12 to 2 p.m. And on May 17th, we will expect to do our Science in the Park meetup. So this year for the meetup, the vision is to really play and frolic in the park and just really hang out and enjoy each other's company. Please feel free to bring a snack or a little something to share with some of the other kids in the park. Think ice cream, think just kind of outdoor friendly snacks that you would bring. Just bring a little extra to share with kids in the park. My responsibility is to bring the science fun. So I will bring an outdoor appropriate science activity to do with whomever hangs out with us and shows up. Once again, that's Science in the Park on May 17th. It's going to be a meet-up, just kind of meet-up style. And we are going to meet at the 116th play area. The idea is to make sure that the kids get a really good, nice, high-quality play area to enjoy whilst they are there. They're not going to be expected to just sit kind of at the table with me. The vision is for them to play while they are there. All right? And that is at 11 a.m. through to around 1 o'clock p.m. on Saturday, May 17th, our annual Science in the Park meet up. All of the volunteers will be there. I will be there. Parents, family. It is not a drop-off activity. You should come, be prepared to stay, and hang out with us for a while. We'll be there from 11 to 1 p.m. Okay, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. May 17th. May 17th. Okay? But yeah, this coming Saturday, we'll have our regular Saturday Science Club from 12 to 2. Okay, at Wadley. Other things that are coming up on May 31st, Saturday, May 31st, get yourselves ready for the annual CS 154 Wellness Fair. So that fair is massive, right? So not only will I have my science fun table there, but there will be a plethora of wellness organizations that are there, lots of playtime. And once again, that's at the CS 154. That's at their on-campus play area. So there's going to be a track. There'll be outdoor activities. There'll be some things that are inside. So that particular event, if it rains, you don't have to worry. It's still at the same location. For May 17th, keep in mind the rain location will be Wadley. We'll just shift back to our regular Saturday Science Club location. But once again, on May 31st, we're going to have a great time with CS 154 with Harriet Tubman Learning Center. Once again, Harriet Tubman Learning Center on May 30th. I'm going to stop there because I just want us to focus on what's going on in May, because there's plenty. Other things that are going on in May. If your child has not already done so, this coming week, they will have their ELA test if they are in the testing grades, and if you have not opted out. If you've not already opted out by now, your child, if they're a testing grade student, you should expect for your child to test, because we've already started the testing cycle with ELA, English Language Arts. In the next couple of weeks, they will sit math tests. Okay? New York State math tests. And then in the next 3 to 4 weeks, your young person, if they are in grades 5 and 8, they will sit New York State science tests. Keep in mind, those tests are on the computer. I have given you several tips over the last several weeks on success on those tests. Scroll, that's my one biggest tip. Teach your child how to scroll. You can also go online and do practice problems. They are available online, not only for free, but they're available to the public. It's not something that's like shrouded. There are specific tests, and you can look up released. If your child's specifically in 5th grade, if they're one of my students, they're most likely a 5th grader because I don't have middle schoolers this year. But you want to look up released New York State science test practice questions, and that will take you where you need to be. All right. So yeah, I don't want to belabor those points too much. I am still doing VEDA for the next several days. And so I can talk more about New York State test tips and tricks if you're interested. There are tips and tricks for other projects and so forth, but I would like to go ahead and hop right into today's science activity. Ms. Steph, we're painting. How is that a science activity? Paint is absolutely a science activity. Paint has specific stipulations, specific things that it needs to do to be considered high performing. And so that's why folks who formulate paint may have art backgrounds, but they typically have very strong chemical engineering backgrounds because they are formulating the paint, as in designing it, testing it, to make sure that it is able to perform the way it wants to. And so we're going to do a little DIY puff paint. This is this week's activity for most of my students in some way, shape, or form. Drop in the comments below if you are planning on bringing your kid on Saturday and you would like this to show up on Saturday. I haven't done puff paint with my Saturday Science Club kids in some time, and so if you're interested in that happening and being at Saturday, definitely drop in the comments below, whether you're live right now, hey girl, hey, or you're watching on the replay. Things that you will absolutely need for this job. Things that you'll need for this, be advised, this is glue. For those of you who haven't watched over the last couple of days, I reuse my bottles all the time, and this is glue. All right, that's what's in this particular bottle right now. We have shaving cream. Any brand of shaving cream works. I happen to have an off-brand, just like something that I order en masse online. The brand of cornstarch does not matter. It does matter if the cornstarch is fresh. You know how I'm always telling y'all about like whether or not these things are fresh or if they've been sitting around. Cornstarch in particular absorbs moisture from the environment. So it does change how it responds when you're adding it to things. So yes, so we need glue, shaving cream, cornstarch, and then of course some food coloring. Tools that I will suggest: large cups, a plate. This plate, by the way, is going to be used for mixing. The plate, I repeat, will be used for mixing. It's not going to be used for what you think it is, but just for mixing. As usual, I've got my tray here. You don't necessarily have to have the tray. If you're doing this with a large group of children, or really any amount of children, I would suggest covering up the table, just because it's going to make cleanup easier. I'm always about giving you tips and tricks, again, to make cleanup easier. Once again, this is DIY puff paint. This is my no-fail recipe, as in no fail. I don't know what else to tell you. Okay, so I typically make this in a beaker, but today I wanted to make sure I'm using materials that y'all have at home. All right, so a relatively large cup. Again, remember my trick for figuring out the size of plastic items. I don't know if you can see it there. It's stamped on the bottom. This is a 16-ounce cup. You can use 12 ounce. I like to use clear cups when it comes to doing anything with science because it makes it a lot easier for the children to see what's happening. Okay? First things first, thinking about when we're formulating things, when we're being engineers, right? You have to consider the challenge. Engineering challenge is we are going to mix together chemicals that will perform like puff paint. All right? Puff paint is colorful, sticky, and puffy. And stable once it dries, right? So the first stipulation that we're going to, the first characteristic of puff paint that we're going to address is stability. Stability is going to be able to be achieved by adding cornstarch. Okay. To do. I'll warn you now, this is one of the things that does not dry quickly. There are some activities that I do and it's like, oh, very quick. This does not dry quickly. You are going to want to make sure that you have a flat surface that is away from children and small children and pets so that it can sit and dry flat. Okay. For no less than 24 hours. I recommend 48 hours. I love doing this on a Friday afternoon because then when we come, especially in the summer, this is one of my favorite things I like to do in the summer because I have the most control over the space, right? So we do this activity on a Friday afternoon, let it sit, or Friday morning, let it sit over the weekend where we know small children or like pets won't get to it, won't touch it or step on it, or just leave it there and let it dry. So that's one of the things is that I just want to emotionally warn you that this is not one of the quick things. It comes together relatively quickly, but it takes a long time to dry. And like I said, 24 to 48 hours. And so we just leave it to dry over the weekend. It's a great right before the weekend thing, right? If you're going to use glue all, you know I like glue all for slime, but glue all, as we know, is very thick, okay? So you can also add a little bit of water to it if you prefer. The point is that your structure and your stability, like when it dries, instead of like going flat, it will maintain structure similar to a cake, right? Cakes rise because of the other chemicals that are in it, but they stay because of the flour. Okay? And so that's what is happening in this combination. Okay? So the glue is the thing that will help it stick to the paint, stick to your surface. Help the paint stick to your surface. I printed these out. It's May. It's that time of year. And I like these. I'll tell you a little bit more about why I like these. I do flowers, May flowers. Again, it's spring in most parts of the U.S. Okay. Also, you have an opportunity for kids to put things in specific colors in certain places. If you want to think about early childhood and helping them connect some type of plant thing to inanimate objects and non-living things, right? You can talk about living things by doing a non-living thing experiment. Okay. Another thing is that there is a holiday that quite a few people celebrate in May. Okay. Towards the middle of the month, you may have guessed what it is. And so if you're at a center and maybe you haven't considered kind of what you're going to do for Mother's Day, this can be something you can send home kind of as a card. Okay. So I'm thinking see all these tips. I'm thinking through this. I don't do anything random. Intention, plan, execute, right? And so that being said, there's a reason why this particular sticky science project is done at this time of year for centers, right? When I'm going into centers, it needs to be useful for them. It shouldn't just be some random thing that the kids make a mess over and then it gets like thrown somewhere on the side. No, I have functions for these different pieces of paper that I might be leaving with them. All right. Again, you see this is pretty thick. You could add a little bit of water to it, or I actually am just going to add more of my glue all to it. You're going to want it to have the consistency of like the icing, like the glaze icing. Okay. For those of you who don't know what that is, meaning you see how it's kind of chunky. I don't want that. I want it to look more like the glue. So I'm just going to stir it, right? You can have each student go around, have each student stir, give them a turn to stir. Okay. And then have the adults in the room stir. For those of us who are vendors like me, who are, traveling around, you've got different people in the room. Or if you're doing this at the table with your young person, this is one of the things you do need to make sure that you give it a good stir. Okay, as the grown-up at the table. And you may be saying, okay, well, Miss Stuff, this is 1 cup. How are you going to get different colors out of it? I will show you. Stand by. Remember, I had some other tools. Okay. One of the tools that I don't have with me at this table, but that I would suggest that you have, either some additional spoons, which you can. I'm not a big fan of the spoons, but you can either have additional spoons or craft sticks. Craft sticks tend to be super helpful, and frankly, that's my preferred thing, is to have craft sticks, because the craft sticks can not only be used to stir, not like this, I'll show you later what I mean, can be used to stir your final mixture together, okay, and for the children to paint, to apply and test their paint, right? Now, things you can do with older students, or they don't even necessarily have to be older, but maybe kids that you have, like I have some students that I've got multiple times a week. And so you can do some testing and have them observe and experience the difference between the cornstarch, the product with cornstarch, and the product without cornstarch. Again, this is my no-fail recipe, meaning it will stay puffy and it will dry. Years ago, when I first started doing this, my first recipe that I found online, DIY puff paint, there are a lot of different things that I saw, but one of the things that I have incorporated over the last 3 years, actually, very intentionally, actually 4, I would say, is the cornstarch. Sometimes you'll see it with wheat flour. I don't prefer how that looks. It doesn't mix in as well, and it kind of adjusts the color, and I don't like that. Okay? So again, when I'm giving you something that I'm calling a no-fail recipe, this is because I've tested it a lot. The major thing is to use, your proper quality glue, a glue that you're familiar with, some type of either white school glue or my tried and true glue all, and you're using cornstarch. You can try it with flour. Again, as an experiment, you can try it with different types of flour to turn it more into an experiment type thing, or you can try it with different types of shaving cream. Remember, don't change flour and shaving cream and glue. You can try it with different types of glue, or you can say we'll do samples that have, say, only shaving cream and food coloring, shaving cream, food coloring, and glue, and then shaving cream, food coloring, glue, and some type of flour, right? So you see how you can come up with these different variations and decide what you want to test, right? What the child wants to test or children want to test, and then go from there and see what you can learn from that. All right. Notice I'm really mixing. I want this very well mixed. And again, it looks kind of like an icing. And for those who don't know what the icing looks like, I'm able to pour it, even though there's a decent amount of cornstarch in there. I would say we're going 2 to 3 cornstarch to glue. You want more glue than cornstarch by volume. More glue than cornstarch by volume. Okay? Because it needs to be sticky, but it does have to have enough of the cornstarch in it to be able to be stable. All right. Next thing we're going to do. Shaving cream. I told y'all this is going to be used for something different than what you thought. Okay? Especially with little children. And when it's hard for them to mix things. Okay? There's a couple of reasons why I use this. One, because they're going to share the color. And this is easier for them to dip into to share the color. Two, because they're going to mix the substance. And it's easier for them to mix on a plate or in a shallow bowl than trying to put their little hands into this cup. Okay, this is for you. This is to control the first couple of steps. This is not child friendly, this part. Okay, and so remember, tips and tricks. My thing is I'm coming on with tips and tricks. I'm not coming on with things to look fancy. I'm coming on with things to make it so that you're able to do this with young people. All right, you see how much shaving cream? This is more than enough for a full table of like 5 kids. More than enough. All right, let's tilt this down. I hope that doesn't fall out. If it does, I'll figure it out. Okay, so I'm taking a scoop. This is where I would prefer the craft stick. You're going to see me use a spoon for this because we do need to keep it moving. But a full scoop of my adhesive and structure mixture, right? The glue and the cornstarch. Full scoop. And your puffy substance is the shaving cream. And I did this with my 3s and 4s on Friday, and they were able to walk me through. Because they're familiar with the supplies that we use these supplies, all of them, throughout the school year. And so it's easy to have them guess. I say, what do we use that we could put inside that would make our paint puffy? Shaving cream. I kid you not. They all guess shaving cream. What do we use that could make something stick to the paper? Glue. Right? What do we use to make it colorful? Coloring food. Sometimes they call food coloring food, which is totally fine. All right? So you're getting something, I don't know, for folks who are familiar, I might be showing my age and also just part of my upbringing, but Cool Whip. This should look very Cool Whippy, right? The Cool Whip after you stir it, not before. If you know, you know. Right? Stir, 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 stir. Now, if you're making like 10 or 12 colors, which is what we do in the summer, I make a lot of colors, okay? This is white. Right? You can use this as white. If you're making this to do with little children, I suggest talking to them, right? Presume that this is not the first time they've seen an image, right? It's not a perfectly accurate image of a flower, but this is not the first time they've seen an image of a flower. This should be an artistic / science kind of connection of a retouch. So they should be able to say that this is a flower. They should be able to tell you by that point, you've already taught them by this point in the school year where green would go, right? They should be able to tell you that the stem, even if they don't remember the name of stem, I'm talking about small children. Elementary school children should absolutely be able to tell you all these parts. If they can't, I need y'all to work that out. Okay? Watch one of my videos. Right? Green will go here, green will go here, and green will likely go here. Right? So, let's make our green first. I'm not going to do the whole painting because I just simply want y'all to get an idea. Okay? This is a step that the children do. No matter how old, how young they are. Even my 2s did this today. They stirred it. Of course, with a craft stick. Don't give them this big old spoon. It's hard for them to manage. Right? They stir. Everybody takes a turn. You count to 5. That way you know how long someone has a turn to stir. Okay? You notice that was the dollar store. If you were really, really watching me, and you've watched me over the years, that was the dollar store food coloring. And I put in like several drops. I actually am going to put more drops in. 1, 2, 3. if I was using my gel food coloring, which I do have an example of, one like dollop, one drop. This takes more, as I've explained to you previously. Okay. But the gel food coloring really takes very little in comparison to what your dollar store food coloring will do. Alrighty then. So at this point, you can have them apply it with their fingers, which just be prepared that it's going to be a mess if you're going to go like that. You can have them apply it, again, craft stick. You can have them apply it with a craft stick, which is, again, another reason why I like to use the craft stick for this thing. I don't have craft sticks close to me. Actually, yes, I do. Some of my jumbo craft sticks. And you could use the jumbo if you want, or the smaller ones, whichever ones you have on hand. Okay? And see? This is where that goes. It's not going to be like perfect. It's not supposed to be. You want your children, your students to have a good time, guys. That's the other thing, guys, gals, persons. I want you to really think through when you're like helping them do things, whether or not they need help, or if you're just trying to make it neat. If it's about them needing help, fine. But if it's about you making it neat, leave it. Just let it be. Okay? See? That's the bottom. And you see the paper starts to curl up. Okay? And you see it's quite puffy. It's raised. Okay? And then on the top, we would use some other colors if you want. Like I said, I'm not going to do the whole painting because that's really not the point of today's thing. It's just really to show you how from start to finish to create your cornstarch glue mixture. You saw how long I mixed it. It needs to be mixed. And also my tip of putting the shaving cream down on the plate, adding food coloring on top, and then letting the children stir. And now you see that this is a pretty large plate that no less than 5 children could share easily. They can scoop it. It teaches them sharing in an appropriate way. Remember, they don't have to share everything. But it teaches them how to share, teaches them how to like scoop. This, even though it seems like it's not very thick, this is still thick enough for a 2-year-old to kind of have to practice using those muscles to spread, because it is pretty thick. All right. And again, last tip, make sure, or rather last reminder of a tip that I mentioned earlier, make sure that you have a flat surface away from your students, children, whomever, daycare kids, whatever, and pets, away from them to be able to dry for a long period of time, which is why I have my tip of using it for a fun Friday activity, because it will need to dry for no less than a day. And you don't want to have to keep, I've had the issue before, I'm telling y'all now. You don't have to keep reminding everybody, go around, or like somewhere, or take up, say, a whole table in your classroom for something while kids are trying to enjoy the day, right? So, this has been Live with Ms. Steph. I really hope that I will be seeing you at our various May events. In particular, I invite you to join us for Saturday Science Club this coming Saturday, May 3rd, at Wadley on 114th Street between 12, actually, there's no way for me to make 12 on my fingers, between 12 and 2 o'clock. Have an absolutely wonderful day.